David Winston, Senior Advisor to Speaker Boehner, and Angela Rye, co-founder of Impact DC and former Executive Director and General Counsel to the Congressional Black Caucus. Good morning.
Good morning.
David, Marco Rubio has been taking the lead on this for Republicans, trying to win over, for example, conservative talk show hosts. Can he provide some political cover for other conservatives? What's his role in all this?
Well, I mean, clearly for obvious reason, he has some standing on this issue that others don't have, and he's obviously taken the lead in terms of trying to drive this. But there have been two fundamental elements here that I think you saw the president address there in his statement, and that Republicans have been concerned about. One, this idea that those people who followed the process we asked them to do somehow would end up at the end of the line as opposed to the beginning of the line, and the president clearly was trying to address that in that statement, that concern that Republicans have. And the other that we've always had a concern about is, great, I mean, we pass a immigration policy, but if we don't have a border that can enforce it, what's the point? And how do we have a border that allows us to actually have an immigration policy? And it sounds like what's occurring here in the Senate and working with the White House and the House of Representatives, that people are beginning to realize that there's an opportunity here, and we can potentially move forward, but it's going to require some working together. And it sounds like, at least from what the president was saying there, that there's an attempt there on his part to try to work with Republicans.
Yeah, it did look, Angela, like enforcement triggers, as part of this whole package could be a part of the sticking point. Where do you see this issue right now?
Sure. Well, one thing for sure is the president was very clear on two strong points. One is that it's time for us to implement a common sense plan for immigration reform, and also the fact that it's time to hold both sides accountable, whether they're the employers or the potential employees. Immigrants who are coming over to the country have to participate in the process in the same way that is fair and just. And likewise, employers have to be accountable for employing individuals who are not legal immigrants. So he was very clear, and I think that it's a great path forward, including the bipartisan coalition of the senators who put forth a strong plan as well.
Much in the way of what we're seeing, David, now on Capitol Hill, where there's, in the gun debate, the big concern is this a slippery slope in terms of guns. In immigration, there is this A word, as it was called many times yesterday, which is amnesty.
Yeah.
How do the people on both sides who want to get this done get around that?
Well, no, and you point to exactly the difficulty, at least on the Republican side, and you've heard this many times about when Reagan passed the bill back in 1986, that it basically turned into an amnesty bill. It wasn't dealing with the situation with illegal immigration. I think that gets to where the Republican concern is. We've begun to hear sounds, at least from Democrats, that they're willing to address this in a significant way, and that is, look, if we're going to establish a real immigration policy, which doesn't turn into amnesty, but really lets us have an immigration policy, we need to really deal with the border. And again, I have to say that some of the sounds, at least what I'm hearing from the Democratic side, seems like they're willing to address that, and that would really help move things forward.
And what's the White House doing in all this, Angela, do you think? I mean, the president has been clearly having some success in going out and selling it to the American people. On the other side, you have Marco Rubio selling it to talk show hosts. It does seem like the voters have got a lot of influence suddenly again.
And they should have a lot of influence, Chris. I mean, you see the fact that folks have wanted a common sense plan for some time. The president and other elected officials have demonstrated that, hey, we're a nation of immigrants, whether we're here by choice or some of us weren't here by choice. But at the end of the day, there is a path forward. I think amnesty really is a red herring at this point. No one, it's a way to distract from what really matters here, and that is to ensure that people who need to get to the states can, and they can do it in a fair way. So I think the White House, again, very clear message yesterday. There's a clear path forward, whether it's, shoring up the borders. The security at the borders has been tight since the president was elected. Shoring up employment verification and shoring up the opportunities for immigrants to get into the system in a legal way.
Angela Rye, David Winston, thanks to both of you.